Hey everybody, thanks for joining me in my shop today. We're going to talk about one of the most important things in beekeeping, and that is the frames in the hive. When you first get them, they look so pretty and nice, but after you kept them a while, they start looking suspiciously dark. Whether or not you should keep using them or not, big question. How do you maintain your frames, and when do you change them for new frames? So I'm going to work on some frames today. Stay with me. Hey everybody, David Burns, good to be with you. Thanks for joining me on my channel today. Maintaining frames is something that probably gets low attention from beekeepers, especially new beginners that are just trying to figure out beekeeping and keeping your bees alive. And today we're going to dive into how to really keep your frames looking good and when to know when to chunk them and get a new one. Let's get started. But before we do, I'm going to make a mess today. And so what I'm going to do is put some cardboard down so that we can have an easier cleanup. Oh, and by the way, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, Bobblehead David here, encouraging you guys to please subscribe. Appreciate you subscribing so much. So let's get a piece of cardboard on the table here on the workspace. That way, we're going to make a mess. I'm going to tell you that. One thing about beekeeping is it is messy, right? And so I just use a piece of cardboard like this. And beekeeping is messy. Even if it all goes well and you get a lot of honey, then you have a really messy job, usually extracting your honey. And honey goes everywhere, doesn't it? So let's put this piece of cardboard here. Yeah, today we're going to be looking at frames. I got a whole bunch of different types of frames and even a hive box I want us to look into. It's a super that I took off of a hive back before I went into winter because I didn't want them to overwinter with that many. But let's jump into the brand new frame. Look at this. These are plastic frames that I love to use. This is a medium or a super frame. It's 6 1/4 and from top to bottom. And these are plastic inserts. Pretty common for beekeepers to use these. These pop in and out like this. And you can take them in and out, change them in and out. So that's what it looks like brand new. But after you've ran it for a few years, it begins to look like this. Now, this is not a terribly old frame. You can tell by the color of the wood. It's still a bright color wood. And the comb looks dark, and some people panic when they see dark comb because they think it means bad things. But this really isn't all that dark. It is a pretty common brown color, as you can see here. And it's not in bad shape, actually. I will use this again for maybe several more years. And you can see little bump outs at the bottom. Some of those bump out looks like the start of swarm cells at the bottom. And but can't tell for sure, but it could be. So anyway, what I want to show you first is one of the things that I enjoy doing in the winter time. It's so cold outside. We've had warm weather, and in fact, yesterday it was almost middle 50s Fahrenheit. Very nice. No wind, sunny, and then today the high is barely making it to 45 degrees Fahrenheit. So indoor day, and we have gotten well over 1.5 inches of rain. So this is an indoor day for me. But I want to show you guys, it's fun to work on these frames. So if you look at the frames here, you can kind of see, get an idea that these are wooden frames with plastic foundation. Those are the ones that I love the most. It gives me more leverage in beekeeping because I can swap out the plastic foundation. If something like wax moths or something, I'll show you a little bit of wax moth, I think, yeah. And if they damage the comb, which they will, then you can just scrape it off, re-wax it, get back on the road pretty quick. So this is my go-to way of really using frames. But if you notice, there's a lot of propolis right here on the edges of these frames. And that's pretty typical. That's where bees will sort of glue their frames together to the next frame beside it. And in case you don't know, if you can see here, how the end bar is what this is called, how it's shaped wider here and then it goes more narrow down here. And this is a way to, allow the bees to pass through from frame to frame more easily. But the way these ears here stick out, these little extensions of the wood here. And the next frame next to it, it's going to make a perfect bee space between the two frames. About 3/8, a quarter of an inch bee space, allow bees to walk around. So let's talk about the first thing that I like to do when I'm working on a old frame like this, getting it ready for another year, is I'm going to remove anything that shouldn't be there. Okay, I've got 3 types of hive tools. I've got the standard, well, I guess I got 2 types, but here's an older hive tool, traditional looking, and I like these for scraping. They scrape really well. Here's another one, and it's a little bit thinner, stainless steel looking thing. And then of course I have my J-hook hive tool that's good too. So the first thing we're going to look at is all the things at the bottom here, and it's really quick and easy to remove this. And so that's where the scraper comes in handy. Whatever it takes, no special way to do it, just sort of figure out how you're going to get anything off the frame that shouldn't be there. That's why you need to put a piece of cardboard down. It's kind of messy. Hey, I've got coffee time coming up toward the end of this video. Some of you enjoy coffee time so much, talking about life principles. I might just do that while we're working on our frames. Look at that. That's this is really kind of, doesn't scrape off as easy as you would think. It feels like it's got a little propolis mixed into it, so it's kind of sticky. So you can keep just trying to get everything off the frame so that it looks nice again. Yeah, see how we're scraping. Now you can use your scraper like this, and you don't want to scrape wood, but it's hard to know the balance of how much you need to push down and scrape to get to the wood without taking the wood off with it. All right, there we go. So mess up a little bit of the comb right there, but the bees will fix that. Okay, so at the ears right here, these little sidebars, look at the amount of propolis. Now that can be scraped off. And if you want to save it for another project, you can save your propolis. I enjoy kind of saving my propolis sometimes. So you can take a J-hook, look at that, and just scrape it right off like this. And then you can keep track of where it went, you know, like that, and put it in a corner separate than your messy comb. You don't want to mix it with your comb if you want to keep your propolis really nice looking. So let's just do that. Let's just put some propolis over here off to the side, separate than our wax. I didn't get it all off, and it is a good idea when you're cleaning, get it all off. So let's go ahead and keep scraping like this until we get down to wood. See that? Getting down to wood is going to make it much better. All right, now we're not done, because not only do we have the other side and the flip side of the frame, but these sections here have a lot of propolis buildup. Now, a lot of times, I'll be honest with you, I don't always spend time trying to clean up my frames. I think it's a great idea, but once you get a lot of hives, it's not going to be feasible. You're just not going to have the time really to clean a lot of hives because it's just too much work. You know, there's what, 20 deep frames if you're running 2 deeps in a hive. And so that's going to take a lot of time to clean just, you know, frames on one hive is going to take a lot of time. So let's use our scraper, kind of scrape it off, get down to the wood. And it's really neat because when I get down to the wood, the propolis and the beeswax and all, it kind of blends in and almost like it coats. You can see how smooth that looks? It's like a varnish, as long as you don't get too deep, and almost like a little varnish that gets on the wood. So we'll keep putting our propolis in a pile over there. If you clean out a lot of these that have a lot of propolis on it, you could actually get a lot of propolis. And some people love to use propolis for different reasons. Some people make tinctures with it. Some people claim it has some health benefits to it. Let's do the other side now. Some people buy propolis from you. If they know you're selling it, they're going to use it in some other type of product maybe, and they want to buy your propolis. Don't ask me where. I don't know where you can sell propolis, but I've heard people selling propolis before. There's propolis traps, by the way. I've made videos on propolis traps. You can trap a lot of this propolis. It's part of the bee's immune system. I've made a lot of videos about propolis and how important it is in a hive. They coat the inside of their hive. They coat the frames with it. but in excess, it becomes a problem. So that's what we're doing here today. And then hang on just a second here. I want to show you, I'm going to bring a box that I removed from a hive before I got going into winter. And I want to show you what it looks like, you know, the supers and all the frames there, and what you would do to use it again next year. If you remove a box, how to get it ready for next year. Now, the reason this is good, if you're a small beekeeper and you've got a handful or less colonies, hives to deal with, you can tinker around when you pull a super off, or for some reason maybe you have a deep like this. Sometimes I make splits, and sometimes I get extra boxes that I'm not using. But you can fix all this stuff really nicely so that when you use it again, everything is more manageable. If your frames and all don't become so waxed over and kind of messy, they're easier to manage in the field. Now, these ears that I talked about here, see that? A lot of propolis built up there. I take the scraper like this and put it down there, and I just try to twist it like this to get the propolis off. And then you can start scraping it. But it's not too bad, but a little bit there. Along the edges too, both sides can be propolized, and especially the end piece. Look at that end piece right there. How much propolis is actually coating that end piece. Now, how do you get that off? Well, scrape, figure it out. It's about the only way I can tell you to do it is just use your hive tool and try to scrape it as much as you can without biting into the wood. So we'll go into that edge there, come around like this. It's kind of fun. It's kind of therapeutic. You know, it's kind of meaningful. I thought about mixing. I think I will mix coffee time in with the video right now, because I wanted to talk about life being meaningful. You know, I think a lot of times we go through life, and sometimes we have moments or days or months or years where we question whether whether life is meaningful. Am I getting any meaning out of life? And everybody wants to have their life be meaningful. You know, I want my life to count for something, we say. I just don't want to grow old and die, and you know, that's all it is to it. We all kind of want to have a life that's meaningful. And there's a lot of things that bring meaning to our lives. Beekeeping is one of them. Of course, your obvious ones that are most important are family, the friendships that you have, just enjoying other people, your spouse. But then there are times where we have other hobbies or interests that bring a lot of meaning to our life. And here's the deal. Sometimes these events, hobbies and all that we participate in, sometimes they cost money. Beekeeping is not cheap. It costs money. Let's face it, a jar of honey is a lot cheaper to go to the store and buy some honey than it is to try to get your own honey for a while, in the beginning anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can go to the store, buy a jar of honey for 10 or 20 bucks, and you didn't have to buy any equipment. You didn't have to buy any frames or bees and all that. But why do we keep bees? Why do we do it? Well, it adds meaning to our life. It makes life interesting. And that's where it kind of boils down to why we have hobbies. We have things that we participate in because we want life to be meaningful. Leave a comment, please. Let me know what you're doing in life that makes life meaningful for you. You know, what are you doing? Like, you got a hobby? Maybe there's something that you do that brings a lot of meaning into your life. A lot of self-fulfilling, things that you can do. So you wake up in the morning, and it's good to have things to work on. It's good to have projects. If you don't have anything going on in your life, then it's easy just to sit around, isn't it, and ruminate. And sometimes if you're not careful, you can start thinking of bad things. You can start thinking of negative things that aren't good for you to think about. You can waste a lot of time. You start making up a lot of wrong things in your head. Have you ever done that? Boy, I have at times. All right, we got to get rid of this bottom track of like queen cells. And look how dark that is again. Again, some people freak out when they see comb that's dark and they feel like, you know, it's going to be bad. It's going to be diseases. And it can be. You can have a chance of more problems and more diseases if you have darker comb. Now, this is not darker comb. I'm talking about, it's not so much darker comb, but it's how old it is. I guess is a better way to say it. Of course, the older it is, the darker it is. But the more the bees use the comb, use this the wax here to make their brood, they're going to develop more cocoons. Every generation of bees that they raise, is actually going, the individual bee, the pupae, is going to spin a cocoon in each of these cells. By the way, this is biology. You should watch my live stream. I started a series in my live stream last Thursday on bee biology. Maybe you'll want to join me. But what I was saying is, so the more cocoons that each of that generation of bees produces, it's going to make more and more leftover cocoons in each of those cells. They're very thin, but after time they're going to build up, so these cells will get much smaller. You know, what are these, 5 millimeters or roughly, give or take some. But so the more cocoons that, more generations, more cocoons that they don't clean out, these get smaller and smaller. That's another indication that it would be time to change your comb too when the cells get real small. But the comb is going to turn just so black when it's really needing to be changed out. Oh, this is really fun. I get a lot of meaning in life from beekeeping. I didn't really think I would, but I do. I find it really meaningful to be out in the hives. I find it meaningful to always be thinking about my equipment, how I can keep my equipment maintained, like I'm doing today, showing you guys. And stay tuned, because I do want to show you some other frames that are in worse shape than this one. I'm giving you an idea here of a few things, kind of like how long it takes to clean a frame and is it worth it. But yeah, so there you go. This one's almost done, I think. Got a few more little wax spots here and there. Bees will build these little connective little wax things all over the place. All right, so this one looks good to me. I've got all the propolis off of it, and it's a good frame. This is in good shape. This would be a great frame to drop in if you're getting a new package and this is your second year. Maybe if your hive died out and you've got this, you could give this to your new package or your new nucleus when you expand it, and that way they don't have to make any more wax. And it takes a lot of effort for bees to consume, what is it, about 6 or 8 pounds of nectar or honey to produce 1 pound of beeswax. So by reusing these frames, we're saving the bees from a lot of hard work. Well, anyway, see the difference? Got a lot more to show you. Brand new frame, doesn't have any comb on it. And then here's one that has the darker one, drawn comb. This is really good. This is a good video for you guys starting out, I know, because you're like, I don't understand all this frame talk. All right, let me show you something else here. Look at this. Oh, I'm pumped and excited. Now, here's a 1-year frame. This is a honey super. And so sometimes brood boxes like this, brood frames, are darker because they're in the brood area. The bees are tracking a lot of, I guess, pollen, and they're just raising brood down there. They're working a lot more. Whereas some of the upper super frames where the honey is, no brood in it. And this is the first year. Look how light and bright this wax is. You see, you can actually start seeing close up here what it looks like. And it's quite beautiful, isn't it? And how they build it. It's quite amazing. But if you pull a super off and you want to get it ready for next year, you want to do the same things. And you can do it fast. You don't have to be as meticulous as I was on that last frame. You can just roughly go through, just hit everything, knock stuff off of it. And this one's not bad at all. This is the honey super that I would love to put on a frame, put on another hive that's getting ready to draw out make me a lot of honey. I'll just go ahead and put this one on there. So that, scraping that propolis off these little ears over here. A lot of it's coming off. It's a good feeling to get her cleaned up in it. Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, that's brilliant. That's beautiful. I love it. Put that propolis in the propolis pile over here. Getting a little bit of propolis. Yeah, just off a little bit of frames there. All right, let me show you one. Let's get into the nasty stuff. That should be the thumbnail. Nasty beekeeper. All right. Now, here's one. I've pulled the foundation out, and this is probably one of my experimental hives because I got a roll of tape right here where I write information on. That will last pretty good long time, but it's done. So what we'll do is try to remove the tape, and we're going to try to remove all the buildup of wax, especially down in this groove, because that's where we're going to slide in another sheet of foundation. And if the groove is blocked or has a bunch of buildup of wax on it, we're not going to be able to get that wax in there, both grooves. This is a top groove and a bottom groove, and that means this wax foundation, or the plastic foundation, fits right in here. And we need to make sure it has room. Now, this frame has been in storage. It's been in and out of hives, got a few years on it, and it's kind of mildewy looking. Look at that. Is that going to hurt anybody? Absolutely not. We're going to ignore it. Try to get some of it off like this. Let's kind of knock off the wax, build up, get down to the wood again. Here we go, other side. Keep track of what piece of wood you're working on. I'm going to do the bottom, I think, first. Yeah, look at that. It's coming off pretty good. All right. It looks good on there. And let's do the bottom of the bottom. There we go. All right. Getting some old yuckies off of there. Now, let's do the top of the bottom. Inside there like this. Same thing. That's why the scraping hive tool part really works good. A J-hook doesn't have a scraper, so you can't really scrape very good. The scraper's on a hive tool. In case maybe you worked bees already and you haven't used your scraper before because maybe you're a new beekeeper, you didn't know what that little hook was for. Now you know. It's like, look at that. That's what that's for. All right, we clogged up the groove. So what I have here is a J-hook hive tool, and I modify the ends. I've made videos. What I do is I thin down this hook. It's thicker. I grind it down to a smaller thickness. And then what I do is I grind it this way and that way, so this is more pointier. I do that for helping me in the field where I can work bees a little bit better. But this is a good thing I want to show you right now. Look at this. We can actually use it now to clean out this rail right here, this groove. So by taking that sharp pointing thing, we can pull it and we can just clean out that groove. Now they make a little, looks like, I think I have one, but I couldn't find it for the video, but it looks like somebody, like you would make out of a coat hanger. It's about that thickness, and it has like a handle. It goes to a piece of metal with a hook on it. So you can put your hand in there and just pull it down in this groove to clean the groove out. But I like to use my hive tool. And so you can see I've really cleaned the groove out really nicely. Let's do the top. No need to do the top groove yet. What makes them clog up is when you drag your wax around like this, it falls in the groove when you're cleaning it. So I pull one way this way and I flip it over and pull the other way and get that other side going. Yeah. Now, when I was growing up, I was always wanting to find some meaningful thing to do in life. Not career, not a hobby, but as a kid, you know, like waking up in the morning, I'd go maybe watch cartoons for a little bit early in the morning. And then after it got brighter outside or I got breakfast or something, I wanted to go do something meaningful, like hang out with some friends, ride my bike, build something, work on something. And so I loved staying busy as a kid. Found a lot of things to do. I don't know. My brother and my sister, both older than me, my dad, my mom, we stayed pretty occupied without the internet back then, without a lot of TV channels. We found a lot of things to stay occupied with. And I I think it brings meaning to our lives. Sometimes I was saying about like beekeeping, it costs a lot of money. Now, sometimes we can start thinking, maybe I'm wasting too much money in beekeeping. You know, maybe this is I don't know, maybe it's a waste of money. Should I be spending so much money on beekeeping equipment or going to conferences or taking classes, buying more and more equipment, buying the newest gadgets in beekeeping? Oh my gosh, is that wise? You know, am I a fool? What's going on? But here's what I'm trying to say. In 100 years from now, none of this matters, you know. 100 years where most of us are going to be gone. And everything that we did is going to be forgotten. So I'm not saying, that you only have one life, go out and be crazy. You know, we need to live responsible. But I'm just saying that the only way to really enjoy life, I think, is to know that your life is short and to realize that you need to figure out a way to make each day count, make each day very meaningful. And what brings us satisfaction, I believe, more than anything else, is having a meaningful life, something we enjoy doing. Man. And don't feel bad about it. That's the thing. I've talked to people that say they would like to do this or that, but then they say, I feel guilty if I do that because I feel like other people can't. And, you know, I don't want to be negligent of other responsibilities. And if I start doing all these fun things, I feel guilty. I don't know. I've heard people say that. I don't know if I ever felt guilty for enjoying life. I don't think so. I do feel bad sometimes that people are less fortunate. They can't sometimes enjoy life because of problems or issues. Look at that tape rolling off, making fuzz. But you got to realize that all of us have struggles, you know, even people that are healthy and wealthy. You can't live your life without struggles. Might as well enjoy life. Hey, enjoy life. Find a way to wake up in the morning and say, it's okay to say, I'm a good person. I'm going to have fun today, and I got some things I'm going to enjoy today doing. I got that tape off there, even with those strands in there. Now I can put new tape, new words on there for new experiments. So I would say what I really enjoy the most about my day is just figuring out what can I do today that would be educational, that would challenge me. You know, beekeeping is challenging to me. It really is. Keeping bees alive. Hey, no pretending. Keeping bees alive is not easy. And we have to do a lot of things. Mite treatments, expansion, keeping your frames looking good. A lot of work to keeping bees, but I like waking up in the morning and thinking, what can I do today that would be very therapeutic mentally for me? You know, I need to keep my mind working. Hey, boy, I'm 65 years old now. Well, and I'll be January the 20th, I'll be 65. So right now I'm doing all that Medicare stuff. It's crazy. I mean, I feel like I'm 30 years old and I'm having to do stuff that old people do. I'm kidding. No, I am. I feel real young. And Medicare, what the heck? I'm having to do Medicare? You know, once you turn 65, wow, crazy, isn't it? I am fortunate enough that I'm very young at heart and physically I'm young. You know, so far, knock on wood, I'm in good shape, and mentally and physically staying active, I think, helps with that. And that's why I love beekeeping. Beekeeping is one of those things that gives you meaning in life because you get to be outdoors in nature and you get to talk to other beekeepers at clubs. Man, this year I've had so much fun going to bee clubs. I kind of got, I can't think of the right word. I don't know. I got to where I didn't like going to bee clubs because my original experiences with bee clubs weren't always that positive. But boy, I tell you, I think it's really shifting now. I really do. I think bee clubs are hitting the mark a little better and embracing newer beekeepers, doing the right things to grow a club the right way. I've been impressed with a lot of bee clubs. Yeah. So it's been fun for me to speak at bee clubs. Somebody left me a comment on YouTube and said, hey, David, do you ever speak or you ever have Zoom meetings? Oh my gosh, regularly. I really do have a lot of meetings. I go to a lot of meetings. I speak at a lot of places and I have a lot of Zoom meetings. Absolutely, I do. If you are interested in me coming to your club or conference or Zoom meeting, I'll leave an email link right here and you can email me because need to know that ahead of time. Last year, I got asked to go to a lot of places to speak, probably my busiest year ever on speaking. And I was booked up so much that I actually spoke more than I wanted to. I usually don't like to speak at big events more than about 12 a year. But I wound up doing a little bit more than that last year because it's a lot of traveling. I'm a traveler. I've traveled to a lot of countries in the world back in the day with my other career. So I know what it's like to travel. And I've kind of got my traveling time in. I don't feel like a person that says, oh, I need to get away and travel. You know, I've traveled a lot. So traveling today is kind of boring for me. Going overseas like I did a lot. It was long flights. If you've done that before, 15-hour flights sometimes in a airplane is boring. So I'm not crazy about all of that, but once I get there, I have a lot of fun. I have a lot of fun talking to beekeepers, and I learn a lot when I'm at clubs and talking to people. Oh, I want to tell you a little secret about me if you've made it this long in the video. You've seen me at conferences, and if you've noticed, I find it hard to listen to conference speakers. Not because I don't like what they're saying or like them personally. It's not my learning style to sit in a chair and listen to people, like you're doing now, right? And that's why school was rough on me, man. I wanted to get out and do something. That really cleaned up nice. That frame's ready for a sheet of plastic, ready to go. But my learning style is hands-on. So when I go to a conference and I sit in a big audience and have to hear somebody speak, I can lose it. I can lose concentration because I'm thinking, and sometimes it depends on the speaker, but it's just not my learning style. So oftentimes you'll see me in the hallways and I'd rather talk to beekeepers. I can learn a little bit more with my learning style, one-to-one chatting with a beekeeper in the hallway, sitting in a chair. And I've found some of my other friends that I hang out with are the same way. They've told me the same thing. And again, I do go to some conference talks sometimes, when I'm not speaking, because I enjoy listening, but I can't do it very long. 45 minutes is rough for me. Look at this horror. This is the worst frame of all. Look at that. I'm going to show you a whole box of the supers in just a minute. So you can see a little bit of wax moth damage. This frame got eaten up, either on a hive or in storage. And look at all this stuff hanging out here. It's pretty gross. But the good thing about this frame is it was wax. It wasn't wax. It was a plastic foundation. So had it been a wax foundation, the bees would have, or the wax moths would have destroyed it. So here we are. What do you do with a frame like this? Clean her up and use it again. This one though, because there has been wax moth damage on it, and there's signs of wax moths stuff all over it, frost or whatever it's called, it needs re-waxed. I've got a video. In fact, I'll leave a video at the end of this video to help you understand how you add wax to these foundations that help bees draw them out so much faster. So, yeah, I do speak at conferences. I will speak at your place if you want me to. Email us and we'll work it out if the dates are open. This year I had several offers on one particular day that it was in October. I think I had 3 offers to speak at on the same day, same place. I had to turn down 2 other places. So get in there early if you want me to speak. I do Zoom meetings. Yeah, I do a lot of Zoom talks. I love Zoom talks. Zoom talks are fun because I jokingly say that in a Zoom meeting, I don't have to wear pants. You know, you're just sitting at a screen. All you can see is my shirt and face. I can stay at home. I don't have to travel, but I can still reach a lot of people and talk. So I do like Zoom meetings. They're handy. They're comfortable. Zoom kind of got a lot more popular once we had COVID, you know, had to do a lot of, kids had to do a lot of meetings like that for school, and you probably had to do a lot more at work. Yeah. And of course, I love live streaming. I think that's a great way that I can reach a lot of you with questions that you have. I've been amazed at our live stream, by the way. I didn't really think it would mount to a lot, but wow, our live streams are fantastic. They've really been growing and expanding. A lot of you are coming back on a regular basis, being part of the community on our live streams. So I'll leave a link right here for our live streams. I think a live stream is good because, you know, you can read comments people are leaving, and then you can answer, leaving on the comments, you can answer that question right there live, you know, a lot of fun. We're going to make anything look good out of this frame. Man, we got to clean all this junk off here, don't we? Yeah, I'm not losing that piece of plastic. It's fine. I'm going to leave it in there and wax it. Just go around the horn and get all the chunks off of here. Yep. Now, in case you're not familiar with wax moths, they'll get in all these little grooves and leave little cocoons. So you got to get all those little cocoons out of there. So that's a little tricky. Just scraping them out is good. Take your hive tool like this. Just scrape out as much as you can. Look at that. You want to scrape it off. You're going to have to scrape it off of the foundation as well. This piece of plastic got to come off. I think the reason why I think I probably enjoy finding meaningful things to do in life is because I was raised by a mom and dad that didn't really do a lot to, we're going to start that over, huh? They made sure that I had the ability to find my own entertainment. Good or bad, I don't know if it was good or bad, but you know, my mom and dad were like, hey, go outside and play. You know, go outside and do something. Go find a stick and play, you know, in the yard. I don't know. So I'd spend a lot of time, you know, just enjoying learning how to occupy myself, I guess, as a kid. And that kind of transferred over to my adult life. I spent a lot of time enjoying life, finding things to do. I don't know. Do you guys feel like sometimes people say they're bored? You ever heard that? People say, man, I'm so bored. I can't get bored. Not yet anyway. Maybe you're thinking when I get older, I'll be bored. But right now I've got so much going on, so much to do. It's hard for me to get bored. I don't understand how to be bored, I guess. How people are bored. I'm not trying to be rude to those of you that are bored, but man, like I got so many things I can't get done now, and I feel like, ooh, boy, I'm far from being bored. Oh, look at that little staple sticking out right there. We'll get a hammer or something and get that in there a little deeper. That could be a problem. It won't let the frame rest. Let me show you that up close. Hang on. It won't let the frame rest nicely in the groove. It's where it's supposed to rest. It'd be propped out by that little staple that's sticking out a little bit. Now, you may be thinking, boy, David, you've got a lot of patience to sit there and work on a frame like that. How many of those are you going to do? Do you really enjoy doing that? I do enjoy it, but yeah, it's a lot of work in it. One year, I remember one winter when I was younger, probably I was only in beekeeping maybe 4 or 5 years, and I didn't have a lot of hives at that time, but I thought, I'm going to spend the winter cleaning all my equipment like this. And I didn't have much going on. It was a real snowy winter too. So I just sat around and cleaned up frames all winter long. Yeah, like this. So if you get a frame in your hive and you start thinking that it's old and you need a new one, what you can do is wait and take it off out of your hive when your hive is at their weakest, which sometimes, you know, can be, usually it is for most people, coming out of winter. They might even all move out of a lower deep up into a top deep. And if they're all off of out of a box or something, then you have the opportunity to take it out of there and clean up all the frames when the bees are off of it. Or if you want to, if you find a frame that's been in there 10 years and is just black, dark, too dark comb, well then, yeah, you shake the bees off. And once you get all the bees off of it, you can just take it back to the shop like this, start cleaning her up. I know a lot of people that do get bored and they have nothing to do. And it's easy, you know. Let's face it, there's sometimes we just don't have the time or the money or the energy to do a lot of things anymore. And I think that's why some people get bored, especially in older age. By the way, the J-hook hive tool is a good flat surface where you can do that and clean off your work area. You can't do that with the other hive tools because they have a bend for your hand, I guess. And so there's a gap in the middle. Yeah. But I'm excited about those of you that are starting beekeeping and you're excited about it. You're watching this video because you want to kind of maybe learn as much as you can about bees before you start. You liked hearing somebody talk about bees. And hey, I get it. I remember when I first started, gosh, I couldn't get enough about bees. I still can't, but when I first started, I was just taking in everything. All right, let's get this old messy stuff cleaned up here. Look at that. Just scraping off that comb. It got ate up mostly by wax moths. And that's why we need to re-wax this foundation again. Put new wax on it. Let's get our propolis separated out over here. Yeah. Oh, I don't want to lose my propolis. It's precious to me. Oh, still got part of this wax moth over here damaged. I need to clean that off. There we go. Clean it up good, actually. Let's get the wood over here cleaned off. All right. Like I said, it depends on your level of perfection, how much you want to really scrape and make this look beautiful. If you're not too worried about it, you don't have to spend as much time as I am on it. When I was a teenager, I wasn't very old as a teenager until I met my wife, Sherry. I met her when I was 16. She was 14. And so once you get a girlfriend, you know, I think I met her in, what year was it? Let me see. I think I got it. Oh, it'd be 1976. Yeah. Because I was born in 1960. Easy to calculate that. So anyway, yeah, and then once you get a girlfriend and you're 16, man, you got a lot of stuff to do then. It's not boring at all. Sherry and I used to hang out together all the time when we first met, ride our bikes together. We'd go places. And I'm going to tell you a secret about Sherry that even her mom and dad doesn't know. And that is that I worked in a factory during high school. I had a work program where you could work half a day and go to school half a day. I liked being busy, so I worked in a factory. And so it was about 3 or 4 blocks from where Sherry lived. So I lived out in the country at the time, so I'd drive to work. My first car was a car that my dad and I pulled out of a field. It was a 1962 Ford Falcon. Had a hole in the floorboard. I'd have to put my foot over the hole when it rained, and had problems with it. But I fixed it up and got it running good. Gosh, and as I worked in the factory, I made a little more money, and then I wanted to buy a new car. And so my dad was like, well, I'll help you, but you're going to have to pay for it yourself. And it wasn't anything fancy. Get this, you won't even probably know it unless you were around then, but It was a Ford Fiesta. It was a tiny thing. I could put 20 of them in here. Tiny little car. Didn't cost a lot of money either. So, you know, I took out a loan. My dad co-signed for me. I might have been 17 years old or 18. I don't remember. Anyway, I got that Ford Fiesta. Ooh, boy, that was great. It was a stick shift. A lot of cars back then were stick shift. You can't hardly find a stick shift anymore. You do, you pay more now. You used to pay less for a stick shift. Now you pay more. And Sherry didn't know how to drive a stick shift. So before I bought that Ford Falcon, before I bought the Ford Fiesta, I had a Ford Falcon. That Ford Falcon, I think, was 3 on the column. 3 on the column. A lot of you probably don't know what that means, do you? 3 on the column means that it was a stick shift, but the stick, the shifter, was on the steering column. So it'd be like first gear up here, and third gear, you know. And so I taught Sherry how to drive on that Ford Falcon. 3 on the column, 6 shifts. You know, you got the clutch. Some of you probably despise stick shift on a hill, especially. You know, going up a hill, you got to stop on a hill with your clutch in, your brake on, and all that. I taught all my kids how to drive with a stick shift, by the way. So anyway, so one day, this is the secret part. One day, I was at work at the factory, and we didn't live too far from Terre Haute, Indiana. That thing is cleaned up good. We need to put wax on it. It's ready to roll. And Sherry said, she came by it and said, hey, on my break or something, hey, can I take your car? I want to go to Terre Haute. Because they had a mall there. I don't remember the name of it anymore. White Oaks Mall. And Sherry said, but don't tell my parents. I don't think they'll be happy if they find out that I drove your car to Terre Haute. I'm not going to tell them, right? So anyway, Sherry came and got my car. She got the Ford Fiesta. It was, I think, 4 on the floor. And easy car to drive, short little clutch. It was, you know, different than an older car. So I hope Sherry's mom and I waited really long into the video to say this. So in case Sherry's mom and dad, they wouldn't watch my video this long. Probably most of you haven't. So only a few of you are going to hear that story. That might be one of those things that I might say in the future, like, if you can answer this question, you might win a free ultimate class. What kind of car? And only like 1 or 2 of you be like, oh, I remember that video when he talked about Sherry driving his car to the mall. Yep, that's got a little nail in it. You see that little staple sticking out right there? Let's get a hammer. Get a hammer and get that in there. All right. Here's a little hammer. Just the right hammer, right size for the job. Won't hammer good on the cardboard. So that one's okay. Let's hold it sideways. See if I can get a little tap on it, maybe. Oh, that went in too easy. That means it ain't working. Let me see. Well, it feels solid. We're going to leave it alone. Leave it like that. All right. We're going to recoat this. We'll put this in the recoating room, and I'll leave a link at the end of this video on how I recoat my frames. Now, the last thing I want to show you is I want to show you a honey super. Now, look at that. That's beautiful. Man, that cleaned up so nice. I love wood, and I love when wax and propolis gets kind of blended into the wood like that. And I love the way frames look when they get drawn out that first year. Look at that's all little specks of propolis, by the way. You see that? Yeah. I know this is a longer video than normal, but hey, what else do you have to do on Sunday? Or anytime. That's heavy. Let's have a little bee bread in there or something. That looks good. That's a great frame right there. That's what you want to use again on a brand new set of bees. All right, let me bring the other one up here. That's a mess. Let me scoot Bobblehead over. Don't forget to subscribe. He's out of the scene. Sorry. Put him over there. All right, let me get this super here. All right. This is one I took off, and you in the scene a little bit? I'm out of the scene. I got to sit down on it. All right. So this one is propolised pretty good. So let's take a look at it. It didn't have enough honey to suit me to go through the winter on top of a hive, so I pulled it off. So a lot of you say, well, what do you do when you pull, a super off a hive? It's not going to go through winter. What do you do with it? Where do you store it? All that stuff. Here it is. I bring it into the shop like this. Got a bunch of them in there that I'm dealing with. And so if you can bring them in where there's no, no bugs that can get into them, they're pretty good in here. I can keep them like this forever. Look at that propolis on the top. Let's knock that off while we're here. There's a little honey in there. It's kind of got a little weight to it. Again, I'm using the scraper of a traditional hive tool just to nicely get that off of there. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. Some of that propolis actually dripped down. It got so hot. Look at that. It dripped out here. Wow, that's amazing, isn't it? It's a hot day that day, wasn't it? All right, let's loosen these up. Give it a little twist with a J-hook. I do this side. Okay, I got to get this other side. Pop, pop, pop. We'll get them all loosened up, then I'll show you what we're looking at on the inside here. There we go. Ooh, that last one's always stuck to the wall, isn't it? Oh. There we go. That's how boxes get damaged trying to loosen up these frames. All right, here we go. Let's take a look at these frames. Got a date on here. Can't read it though. Well, let me flip that around, see if I can read that. Yeah, put some of my identification on there. 2022, 2024. So I was doing work on these frames a couple of years ago. So that frame is exactly, this frame might be 2 years old. In fact, you want to look at that one first? We kind of got the date on it, don't we? Let's see how old what it looks like. A 2-year-old frame looks like. All right, here we go. Not bad. See the color? And it's darker, so I think they might have had some brood up there. It could be dark honey, but I don't think so. Maybe, but usually they can be darker because some brood got up in there. So this is just a honey super. This frame isn't in bad shape. It can be cleaned up. The propolis on these little walls over here could be knocked off, but may not be worth it. Let's just look at some more though. This is why I didn't want to overwinter this. The bees in the late summer and kind of maybe the early fall kind of drained her out. There's not much in there to utilize, is it? But it's great comb. This would be a great super. Maybe even in the spring, if I can get my bees to bring in some honey in the super. Now there's some honey that is still capped over. Look at that. On both sides, a little capped over. It's darker just because it's darker honey that's saturated the caps on it more. Yeah. Let's see if we got any more capped honey. Yeah, look at that, man. Breakfast right there. I'm hungry. That's good honey. Not enough to go through winter. That's why I pulled this off. See, they get up there and they just have a little bit like that. It wouldn't be enough to really help them out. So the way that you store these, a little bit, not enough to help. They need a lot of food. The way that I store honey supers like this, I keep them in a room like this. This is a climate controlled shop. And I can stack them up over in the corner over there. And I can make them look really nice and make sure they don't get any bugs on them and such. But one of the things that I want you to notice is, look at this. This frame isn't going down right here. Do you see how it's sticking above the box? And so that's a problem. And so what we're going to do is take all of these out and we're going to scrape that lip again. I think I made a video recently of us scraping that lip. Now it's a little tricky when you're trying to actually get the propolis off of these grooves, but I'll show you a trick, okay? What you want to do is scrape the bottom groove as much as you can like this, but you can't get it all. So what you do now is flip the box on its edge like this. Are these frames in the way here? Scoot you over, guys. All right, so now you can scrape the same way by putting pressure down by going like this, see? Wow, look at that. That's working good. And then once you get it kind of on both sides, you can get your hive tool back in the corner and get that cleaned out really good again. Beekeeping keeps you moving. Look at my arms working this hive here. You know, I got a video coming up that talks about adding wax to your frames. It's going to make your frames pull out so much faster. Hope you'll watch it, guys, right over here. Thanks for watching this long. See you over there. I should have a video where you can keep watching if you want to. I guess that's every video, right? Turn it off when you're bored.